Welcome to Simplify to Scale, a show dedicated to helping you scale a high impact and high profit business that you love without all of the complexity and chaos that can keep you trapped in the day-to-day. I'm your host, Krista Grasso, and with decades of scaling experience, I know what actually works and what's just hype. So if you are done with all of the one-size-fits-all scaling advice and all of the overnight success promises, and instead you want proven practical strategies that will help you simplify operations, elevate your leadership, amplify profits, and scale sustainably, let's dive in and get started.
Hello. We are so excited to be here because we have officially taken over the Simplify to Scale show. And so you've seen Annie with Krista on different episodes, and you've seen me with Krista on different episodes, but you haven't seen us together. So you are in for a treat today.
Absolutely. We're taking over.
Yes. So we're going to just dive in. One of the things that we're actually going to talk about, because we are literally living this out right now, is how to be able to keep the show running even when the founder or the leader needs to take an unexpected leave. So it could be leave, it could be just a vacation, it could be, I just need to walk away. And so what do you do? And so we'll talk about the unexpected, and then we'll talk about how you can actually do it with intention as well. And so let's just dive in and just kind of get into the nitty gritty of it. So, um, Annie, from your perspective, when a client needs to be able to step away, what would you think helps set the tone in order for it to happen successfully?
I think trust, foundationally, there has to be trust. But at this point, if you're in business, you know that, right? And if you're still in business in 2025, you really know the value of trust, but you also know that it's a long game and that you have to kind of keep feeding into the kitty of trust. But
Yes,
that to me, it's like something that you can reap the benefits of when you need to. It's like insurance. Like if I keep putting into my team, if I keep putting
hmm
into my client relationships, if I keep empowering my team to take ownership of what they should or want to take ownership of, if I keep empowering my clients by being transparent and open and ahead of the curve, then if I need to step away, number one, nobody's questioning my intentions. Nobody's thinking, oh, well, she just doesn't want to work. Nobody thinks, oh, she's flaking on the contract. Nobody sounds any alarms because the trust is already there. But the time to build that trust and the time to build that space in with both your team and your client roster is obviously not the moment before the crisis or the vacation or the good, bad, the ugly. It doesn't matter. Like, you're a mom. If little man needs to go to the freaking dentist unexpectedly, you're gotta go. Like, what is he gonna do?
exactly.
Take the bus? Like, what's he gonna do?
Right.
And yet, the time to be like, hey, Annie, can you step in and teach my client call? Also with your peers, right? With your help staff, with your ecosystem. You couldn't be like, hey, Annie, can you jump in and teach my call if you don't know that your clients would be in good hands? And the time to make that decision is not when you're pulling into the dentist parking lot with a kid in pain, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And what you're touching on is so extremely critical, because then there's that duality of trust with your team trusting you to be able to set them up for success. And so, one of the things that I know is extremely challenging for some founders is actually trusting that it can be handled with anyone except for them, especially those. What I've always noticed is founders kinda hand off certain things, but they kinda hold on to certain things as well. So it's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
like, "Imma give you 1, 2, and 3, but Imma keep 4, 5, and 6 for myself." But
Mhm.
when you're out, you're out, and 4, 5, and 6 eventually is going to have to be, delegated, and I use that very lightly because we all know about, like, them having ownership of it at the time that they're holding on to whatever that task or activity is. But at the same time, your team needs to be able to trust that you set them up for success for 4, 5, and 6 to be able to be handled properly in a way to where they can have that continuity even in your absence. And so that I think the other side of that trust is just as important.
Heck yes. And also a team that knows you and in whatever way feels business appropriate, loves you enough to be like, why are you working? So that when you actually take space, you actually take space. Like my
Yeah.
mother-in-law passed away in March of this year, and I'm a self-professed recovering workaholic, but one of the things that I do to feel control is I work my to-do list. Right. And so I had people looking out for me. I had clients who were like, babe, just get back to it whenever you get back to it. Cause I built up my client relationships over long periods of time. And literally, I took one meeting and I showed up on that one meeting, and my team was like, why are you working today? What
Right.
are you doing here? And the fact that they felt like that was appropriate, because it totally was, but
Right.
managing up is challenging, right?
Mhm.
And the fact that they were stern with it and basically refused to meet with me because they were like, no, you can't. Like, that takes a really special relationship built on that reciprocal trust.
Yep.
Right. And also on the client side, like, hey, just so you know, I had a death in the family. I'm going to be like 48 hours delayed. And then the client right back and it'll be like 48 hours. Why don't you just get back to me next week? It's not brain surgery. That again is indicative of a healthy and thriving client relationship. Right. And so the question
Yes.
becomes, what can you do today in peacetime to
Mhm.
prep your team and your clients and yourself to be able to feel held and supported no matter what? So, what are some of the things that you've seen, Jess, that you think work really well?
Some of the things is so we have a breakdown of just our team accountabilities of who does what when and how frequently it happens. And so the beautiful part of that is literally we have the cadences broken down to daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, annually, and I think that's all of them. But either way, so we
Mhm.
have it broken down that way. And it's literally whatever the activity may be and who owns it. And so
Mhm.
it makes it extremely easy to do a plug and play because they're linked to the SOPs, and it makes it extremely fluid when it comes to, okay, so now with Krista being out, okay, great. Let me go and see her little face next to all of these different tasks to make sure that they don't fall through the cracks. And the good thing is that, okay, what's daily, what's weekly, or whatever the case is, and I can just go and create something for myself so I can have a mental note. So that's one of the biggest things. And we actually update that on a bi-weekly basis. So if there's something else that I typically do or I add, I'll just go in and make sure that that board is updated and it's always current. So that's going to be one of the critical ones. And I love the fact that we don't have to wonder if it's accurate or not.
Yeah.
So that's one component of just knowing who does what when, and
Mhm.
then identifying and revisit. Like once you visit that that breakdown, it's what do I really not know the best about. So the good thing is like, okay, what am I informed of, what am I familiar with, what am I comfortable with, and then actually including that into the weekly cadence. And so
Mhm.
whenever we have weekly planning or like our program delivery meeting, then I'll just say, hey, let's spend 15 minutes on this. Walk me through your process so that I can see what it is. We record that and then I have that as a reference for later. And it's easy to implement that concurrently with what we do. So it doesn't take over. It's just enough to say, show me this now. So when I
Mhm.
need it for later, I have it and I can go back to the vault. Um, so that's been extremely helpful, or just me doing random audits. I'm just saying, "Hey, I was looking through this. Show me how this or is this updated? Is this the most recent version?" So just really doing those check-ins to make
Mhm.
sure. But that's because I'm really plugged in and very intentional about wanting to see things through the lens of Krista, and especially being the CSOO, it's my responsibility to make sure that I'm looking through her lens as well, so that I can be that conduit between Krista as well as the team.
Sisu! Sisu!
Yes.
I mean, I think that that's absolutely huge, and I think that also brings up a really, really, really critical point, which is that one of my favorite pieces of Krista's work is that pyramid of delegation, and it shows that like up at the tippy top in vision or as close to a vision only as you can be is you, right? But then there's a whole lot of different tiers in between you and a $5 an hour VA, right? And so
Right.
you probably shouldn't leave your entire business in the hands of a VA because
Right.
that's not what they're trained to do. It has nothing to do with them. It's not what they're trained to do. Whereas you, as CSOO, have the keys to the kingdom, understand the high level look at it all, have the freaking passwords and stuff you need because you know the SOPs and processes, right? And so I'd
Right.
say out there, if you are just cobbling together a whole bunch of implementers and you don't have any strategic implementers and you don't have any strategists and you don't have what Jess is, which is that CSOO, which is that combination of strategy and ops, right? Coming together so beautifully, then I can understand why you would be hesitant. And I can understand why in the past you may have, shut one eye and something went awry, but that's okay. That doesn't mean that's going to happen again. Just ask yourself, am I delegating the right tier of stuff to the right people, or at least like within 1 degree?
Right.
And also, back to what I said before about like have people that will push back on you, have people that understand and are willing to be flexible and understand how to reprioritize in a pinch, right? Because like, I'm not in charge of Krista's Instagram, but if Krista's Instagram doesn't go out this week, I'm pretty sure it won't cause nuclear war.
Right.
Right? And so if we had somebody in my seat as her fractional CMO who would be like, no, we have to stick to this to the letter, then either Krista's got to come in, somebody's got to shift. I have to go slip into implementation and get caught up on all of the stuff that I don't know, or we have to train someone, or we have to use greatest hits. And no matter what we choose, that's just a whole lot of wasted time and a whole lot of wasted stress when the right person in a position of trust can be like, hey, y'all, who cares about Instagram?
Right.
We're taking 10 days off. Or, hey, y'all, don't worry about Instagram. We batch created it last month. We're golden. Like
Exactly.
either of those things happen with team trust.
Right, exactly. And one of the honorable mentions that I didn't say before is I am one of the most direct, transparent people, and so I'm just like, "You be real, tell me what it is," and that way I can know, like, what component is super critical so that maybe her
Mhm.
entire Instagram feed is not as important, but one thing you better not miss is that podcast post.
Yes.
And so, if that's the case, then it's like, at least I know to where if all else, and I don't even just mean fails, if we don't prioritize that, then we prioritize that podcast, and we know that because that's her non-negotiable.
Mhm.
So really knowing what those things are and then holding her to making sure that she's honest and candid about what it is that is critical for her,
Yep.
as well as making sure that that information is dispersed to the team and holding them accountable as well.
Now I'm just like getting into the logistics. Now I'm just like, okay, get a password manager.
Mhm.
Make sure the highest levels of your team have an email that's their name at your company name so that
Mhm.
if they're emailing in your stead, then people aren't like, who the heck is this, right? They're getting
Right.
it from Jess at kristagrasso.com, right? So like they're
Mhm.
figuring that out. But some of these logistical things, it's like, don't get a password manager. It's make sure that your team knows each other. Have what I call the extremely expensive hour where you pay your whole darn team to sit in a Zoom room just so that I'm really lucky. Like, I've gotten to go on multiple trips with Jess. I freaking love Jess. I know Jess. But, like, if I didn't know her and we were going to try to pull this takeover off, like, this could be, we would pull it off. We're both brilliant and adorable in our own way. We would pull it off. But it would be so much weirder if we had never met
It
right?
would.
And also if you're delegating down or you're trying to manage up, if you've never met the people that you're talking to, again, the time for them to bond and trust each other and get their own processes going is not when your kid needs to go to the dentist. It's got to happen ahead of time. And so that's why I'm like, book the meeting, get the phone tree going, make sure everybody's got the appropriate and easy to understand email. Don't name them Sparkle Queen at, right? Like name them their name
Right.
or
Max just a little
hello
bit.
or info if you have to, but like name them something.
Right, exactly. Yep.
And just
So,
like
we
anything else,
just
the passwords. You know what I mean? Like my
yeah,
neighbor knows where my hide key is if she has to feed my cat.
yep.
And I know how to get into my parents' social security box if I need to. Like the passwords are, you just got to make sure somebody knows how to get into where they need to get into.
This is true. That's extremely critical because it's like, how can you step away if some of the most critical components can't continue without you?
Right. Or if
Yeah.
every 5 seconds they have to be like, I'm so sorry to bother you. I'm so sorry to bother you, but
Yes.
can I have the Canva password? I'm so sorry.
That's how the message starts. "I'm so sorry to bother
I'm
you."
so sorry to bother you. I'm so sorry. It's me again. Hi. You don't have to get into this right now, but like, I really need the podcast password because I'm supposed to be recording in 15 minutes, no rush. Like, don't do that to your team and don't do that to yourself. Like some of these things, if you have a brick and mortar, make sure your team has a physical key. You know, like
Right.
it seems like I'm talking down to you and I'm saying like one duh after another. But these are the kinds of things that when we're so close and we can't see the bottle from inside the jar, they don't feel like a duh. They feel like one more place we have to cede control, or one more place we have to give responsibility, or one more challenging conversation we have to have, even if it's positive. Yeah, but you know it could be wonderful. And what's worse than that is not being ready when you're needed.
Exactly. Exactly. So, since we kinda took the path down, okay, things to set it up to make sure that you can be in the position to be able to step away. Even though if you have all the tools to kind of be like, "Okay, I'm ready now." What are some of the telltale signs when your team just lets you know they're not ready for that type of independence yet? What are some of the signs that you think are just the indicators that the team's not ready?
Uh I think if somebody on your team starts trying to take everything on,
Mhm. Mm.
you know what I mean? Like, if they're starting to grab and grab and grab, then they're probably trying to be useful so much that they might
Mhm.
not be particularly useful. Like, keep people in their lanes as much as possible. If a bunch of people are trying to do stuff outside their lane or they're trying to find other ways to be helpful, that's probably a sign that they're not super comfortable leading their own department or their own tasks. Um,
Yeah.
you know, another thing is just what's their attitude? What's their general everybody's gonna handle it differently, and it's not fair to expect everyone to, like, spring into action and be peachy, but also, at the same point, are you gonna approach this as you know, what you need to do as a team member, what you need to do as an employee, or what you need to do as an advocate? Or are you approaching it with the energy of it being such a burden and you're not getting paid for this and wham, and make somebody else do it and they start delegating it to somebody else or writing you emails being like, well, just so you know, I'm not going to do this and I'm not going to do this and I'm not going to do this. I'm not saying that you can't have boundaries. You absolutely can. But
Right.
it's like, are you showing up with willingness and
Mhm.
proactivity and with the kind of peripheral vision to look at people that you might not normally interface with? Or are you showing up very blinders on, closed-minded, trudge through your SOPs just like you always do, and heaven forbid anybody ask for anything else? And that's really just, to me, a mindset shift.
Yeah. For sure. For sure. And then, whenever you were speaking on just the ones that take it on, take it on, take it on, I always think about how while they may mean well with their intentions. The reality is it gets really easy to overpromise and underdeliver
Mhm.
because you already have your normal workload, but
Yep.
then you're acquiring someone else's as well in a sense. And so you're layering that. And so something tends to slip through the cracks if it's not done in the most effective way. And I think that that's one of the very critical components of a leader being able to see and intentionally delegate something versus it being just doing it in a reactive way and
Mhm.
not really being aware of what they're doing, to whom, and then why. And so being clear about that is really important. And then that also taps into making sure that you're empowering your team because that's a really quick way to set your team up for a decline in their mindset.
Mm.
That shift is not going to be as positive because you can even doing that can have those lasting effects where they start to lose their confidence in their roles.
Yeah. And even just saying, like, "I appreciate you. Thank you for doing your best. And if something goes sideways, it's not a big deal."
Right.
Like,
Right.
that's pretty much what most team members need to hear is a thank
Yes.
you,
Mhm.
acknowledgement of effort, permission to screw up, and
Yes.
lack of frickin' punishment if something goes sideways when that person is showing up and doing their best. I'm not saying if it goes sideways because they sat on their butt and did nothing, but, like, if I try to schedule an Instagram post and the world's internet is down that day, oh, no, I'm not gonna lose my job.
Right. No, seriously. And you saying that is so important because it's one of those things where it and then this is also something I have to remind founders, leaders, etc. is the way you arrive at a destination may not be the way that someone else arrives, but you still get to the
Mhm.
same place. Because even if
Mhm.
Google Maps has 5 different routes, then a team is gonna have more, especially the more team members you have. And so
Yup.
if you get to the same place, it might take you 30 minutes extra, whatever the case is, but at least they get there. And if you disrupt their learning process and how they actually apply the SOPs or whatever might that they may be following, whether it's experience or otherwise, you disrupt their ability to build their confidence and
Yep.
become better at what they're doing.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. But,
Yeah.
like, it's like the very first time when your parents leave you home alone, and
Yeah.
it's like some parents are like, "Okay, we're leaving. Bye, put a TV dinner in." Like, that's how my husband was raised, and so, like, he and his brothers just got really good at, like, taking care of themselves, and I was so freaking sheltered that my mom would be like, "In case you light yourself on fire, here's what you do. And then here's the poison control hotline." And I'm like, "Mom, I'm 16. I'm not gonna drink bleach. Like,
Right.
come on." But, like, it's that didn't show trust. That showed fear.
Mhm.
Whereas, like, put a
True.
TV dinner in, get yourself a movie, that seems disconnected, but actually just shows a whole lot of trust. If you can get to the point where you can calmly, casually walk away, that's like super duper extreme level. But if you're on the way out going, "Okay, did I show you the thing? Okay, did I show you the thing? Did I show you the thing? Are you sure you're gonna do the thing? Don't forget to email Michael. Don't forget to email Michael. If you forget to email Michael, don't forget to email Michael. Okay, just don't forget." Like, that is not going
Yeah.
to set anybody up for success. It's going to create paranoia in your team members. It's going to kind of erode that relationship because they're going to be like, "I get it. What? Do they think I'm stupid or not trust me?" And then also, you're already in a high stress situation and now you're having
Yep.
doubt, which is going to compound it even more. And it's just like, y'all, just communicate.
Exactly. Exactly. And before we wrap, I do want to bridge the gap because we talked about what works,
Mhm.
things that you should do on a light level, and then how to recognize when your team isn't ready. But just to kind of bridge the gap to get them closer to being set up for success, what are some of the critical tools or tricks? I don't like the word hacks because I feel like that's temporary in a sense, or
Mhm.
it's just like the fast track kind of. So let's think about just like what things could be helpful to get them to a ready state if already have identified, okay, they're not quite ready. How can we get them there?
SOPs.
Okay. Yep.
get yourself some SOPs, even if you think something is basic AF.
Mhm.
I would rather over prepare someone and they can ignore an SOP than assume that somebody knows whatever I had to reset on my computer was before. It was called RVamp or something. I don't know what that is. I don't know how to reset it. I just freaking Googled it. But y'all,
Right.
if I had an SOP that said, if this happens, then do this. And if this happens, then do this. Then I would feel better prepared and my stress level would stay lower. And again, I don't have to text you at the last possible second and be like, I'm coming. I promise I'm coming. I'm sorry, I'm coming. I don't know why this keeps happening. None of that would happen if I had an SOP.
Right. No, I agree. And I love that foundational component of having that and it being something that they're already familiar with is critical.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the other things that I would even think through was making sure that whatever project management tool that is utilized is used even in the absence of the founder. Because at any moment, let's just say that they happen to log in, look, etc. You want
Mm-hmm.
them to be able to, at a glance, know the status so that
Mm-hmm.
you don't compromise their trust at all. So it is really important, and it's almost kind of like, especially it's funny that you brought up just like whenever you're, back in the day when you were a kid, it's the
Mm-hmm.
same, similar concept in terms of like if you know like you had a list of things that needed to be done before they're like, hey, by the time I get back, I want all of these things to be done. It's
Mm-hmm.
not wise to wait till the very last minute because
No.
what always happens, they sneak you right at the end and they come early. And so it's
Mm-hmm.
like, what can you do to
Mm-hmm.
prevent that? Is to kind of do a little bit here and there throughout the way, and then making sure that things are updated accordingly.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. God, I was so bad at that. My parents would be like, "Hi, honey, we're across the Missouri state line." And I'd be like, "Ah!" And just start throwing things under the bed and doing
Yep.
all the other stuff. I'm like, that I knew that they were going to come home at this date and time for a week.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
had the same to-do list all week.
Exactly.
Right? Don't do that to yourself. Don't do that to your team. Plan ahead.
Don't. Yeah. Exactly. All right. So as we're wrapping up, I am very curious to hear what is one piece of advice that you would give a founder or ops leader who's afraid to let go.
Remember, everybody, including you, is doing their best.
I like
So
that.
if you need grace and space as someone that needs to step away, that's not a failing on your part. Don't let the gremlins in your brain make you grasp for control because just because you're stepping away and because that's scary. What you're doing is brave. What you're doing is powerful, and you can step away for other reasons, but a lot of the time you're stepping away because of a crisis. So good on ya for being such a smart, capable badass in the face of whatever you're facing. And then similarly, remember that your teammates are human and that they're doing their best and that, they want what's best for the company and they want what's best for you, or you wouldn't have chosen them or they wouldn't still be working for you. So you're going to have to drop whatever kind of stress responses attached to their work. Because if you delegate, perfectionism is going to come up. If you delegate, some dread's going to come up, some panic's going to come up, some financial stress is going to come up, or some client overprotectiveness will come up because you're in a stressful state. But if you remember, this person is a trusted team of mine for a reason. This person is the person I chose to give this to for a reason. And at the end of the day, maybe a tweet won't get sent, but I know they're doing their best. Then you can at least check into the project management system software, reassure yourself by seeing that steps have been taken, and then leave everybody alone.
Right.
What do you
That's fair.
think?
I think it is this philosophy of you don't live to work, you work to be able to live the life that you want for yourself and the people you
Mhm,
care about the most.
mhm,
And so, in order to do that, you have to take time to cultivate and create that. And if you don't, you're just de- depriving yourself in time is going to continue to go by. Like, I still even say, like, since COVID, I feel like I've lost like 4 years. I'm like, where's the time gone? So if life is going by that fast just because of that alone, imagine if you were to spend your days working 16-hour days nonstop. You don't have the time to actually cultivate the life that you're actually doing it for in the first place.
Mhm.
And so I would just remind them to slow down enough. So it's that whole pause, prioritize, and proceed. But it's like you have to pause first. And
Yes.
so, and in doing that, it's okay, slow down and make sure that you're still doing it for the right reasons.
Yes, 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 yes. My friend Gabs Hayes, my favorite quote of hers, she says, "The quality of your rest determines the caliber of your performance." And I completely agree. If you're
I
going to
do.
take the time
I like
away,
that.
take it away.
Mhm. Yep. Exactly. Exactly. So, Annie, thank you so much for joining me today. It was a nice takeover. I feel like we should do it again at some point
I
in the
think we
future.
should do it again in the very near future.
That yeah, it was a great conversation. So I appreciate your insight and I am so excited that we were able to have this time together.
I agree. Everybody, this has been the Annie and Jess takeover. Go out there and simplify to scale.
Thanks so much for tuning in to this week's episode of Simplify to Scale. If you'd like to take things further, I invite you to join me for my Scale Smarter, Not Harder interactive workshop. Head to strategicopsinstitute.com/scale smarter to get registered. Not only will we dive into what might be keeping you trapped in the day-to-day, but you'll have the opportunity to ask me your questions live. If you got value out of today's episode, I'd love if you'd take a moment and rate and review the show so more businesses can learn to scale more simply and sustainably. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode, and I'll see you again next week.